which is traditional time to be at work for some of us. I mean, some come earlier, I think, that I see around here, but six is a tradition. 6:15. All right, y'all stretching it now. We better open this meeting with a word of prayer, then we'll talk some more. We'll ask Representative Ernest Smith if he would to open us this morning.
Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to come out on this morning, suffering no hurt, harm, nor danger. We ask that you would edify all that we seek to accomplish on this day. Grant that we can make good decisions that would impact the lives of Georgians. We ask that you would continue to bless our families in our absence. And as we go forth on this day, let us do good works that Georgia will feel good about. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. That was pretty much to the point. I think now we'll start again, that we all arrived here at the appropriate time to go to work on most mornings, so whatever time that may be. So it's good to see everybody. We'll move forward. I think first we'll have HB 475 by Chairman McCall. He'll identify the sub he's working with, if you will, sir. What number is that, Tom?
The sub number in your packet should be...
No, wait a minute. No, microphone number, I'm sorry. You spoke...
Little zeros on top of each other.
I worked with him for 13 years and ain't been able to get him.
Now we're ready.
Now.
Proceed.
The sub number is 0897S. And before I get started, I want to express my appreciation to DNR people for, this is about the 18th sub. Jeremy's getting tired of seeing me, but I appreciate him going through and fixing all this stuff. Every time we do something, we'll find a little bit of something that needs fixing, and there's a couple of things in this one that needs fixing. But what all this is dealing with is feral hogs. They're the worst problem ag has, and one of the worst problems that DNR has. This is what the problem is, and if you've ever seen them, most of them black, but they ain't got to be black to be a feral hog. The genesis of it was, everybody's got problems with them, and I had talked to one of the game wardens at home to see if there was any restrictions on hunting them at night. And then when I found out what some of the restrictions were, which is what we are taking out on line 147 through 150, which is, you know, you couldn't pull up in a field and shoot them with your headlight shining on them. You had to have a light attached to your body, which is not a Q-beam held in your hand. It's got to be like a wheat light, like a coon hunt light. And anyway, which is as bad a problem as they are, we don't need any restrictions on them. So after going through a whole bunch of different versions of trying to fix it, we came up with, is there a permit in the folder? If y'all will see a permit, that pretty much deals with anything you call in. It's free. It's you got to have a person on it, but it's based on, it's attached to the property, not necessarily a person. You know, deer permits, you got to have 3 people, and they're the only ones that can go. But this is based on the property, and you can do pretty much anything you want to at night shooting feral hogs, because they have become nocturnal. The only restriction, and if Walter, you tell me if I'm wrong, is you can't hunt them during deer season. The permit at night. Permit lasts for 5 years, and the only reason that 5 years is in there, I looked at my concealed carry license, it's 5 years, my pesticide license is 5 years, your driver's license is somewhere around 5 years, or until, if it's on leased land, whenever the lease expires. You know, pretty much that's it. We changed a few things in there. If you look on line 33 through 46, that's what we did about 3 years ago to try to limit the spread of them. Walt said they have made all of 2 cases in 3 years because it's hard to catch somebody turn them loose in other than fenced in areas. Line 52 to 64 is basically what the permit said, but we need to go back, if y'all will, and add. I got a couple of amendments we need to add there. If you look on line 59, that last sentence about nothing shall be construed to affect the terms of a lease agreement. Some property you lease it to farm, but you don't have the hunting rights. This doesn't have anything to do with any of that. On line 85, originally we took out center fire because feral hog was in that section. We need to take the strike out of center fire because that's only dealing with deer and bear now, the way the bill is written. And if you look on line 113 and 114, you can shoot feral hogs with anything from a pellet gun to an anti-aircraft gun.
Can we use tannerite?
It's fine with me. You ever seen them blowed up with it? Yeah. But like I say, on line 146 to 150, that's the genesis of this whole bill. That's being struck. And if you got any questions, I'll answer the easy ones. If they're hard, we'll get Mark and Walter to answer them.
Thank you, Chairman McCall. Appreciate you addressing this problem that and appreciate the department. You have had it has taken a little while to work through the details of this bill, so I guess at this time, as we certainly always recognize Commissioner Mark Williams and his presence here. Commissioner, if you will, make a comment, and I wish you would, so we'll all know who's here from your department. If you would look around you and let us know who's here from your department.
Walter Raven,
Yes.
Deputy Commissioner Mary Catherine Urick of Public Affairs, Tina Runges, who's not just a hog biologist, but she is the technical person with WRD.
We'd love to hear from you, Mr. Commissioner.
All right.
Is that Mike 1 or 2?
That's
I think that's 2.
I don't have my glasses, Mr. Chairman, this one. There we go.
I made a guess. Could have been halfway right. Yeah. Commissioner, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, and we really appreciate Chairman McCall working with us. This has been a problem. We started on this bill over a month ago, and like he said, there's been a lot of changes, but that's because when you change something, it affected other law enforcement aspects were some of the main reasons. But we feel like we've got it right now. We also were able to go in and lift some magazine restrictions and caliber restrictions that were in there and fix those at that time. So we're certainly happy with the bill, and we think it'll go a long ways for helping with this problem.
Walter, we appreciate your input. And is there anything you need to add to the Commissioner's thoughts there? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I did forget to tell y'all on 96 through 99, we're striking all that about the shotgun shell limit. I don't know anything about all these new shotguns that'll hold 8 or 10, but if you can tote a rifle with 10 bullets, they're just taking that out where you can use these tactical shotguns too.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Why don't you sit right there for just a second in case we have a question. Committee members, do you have any questions about Chairman McCall's language or anything that the department may assist in? I wasn't sure I was going to recognize him, but go ahead, Leader Nimmer.
I'll ask him later.
No, you got the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is for Chairman McCall, and I'm sorry I hadn't come to you before now, but just as a point of clarification on line 58, it's immediate family and used primarily for raising or harvesting crops other than timber or for containing livestock or poultry. I know feral hogs do a lot of damage on pine seedling ground. They root up pine seedlings, they'll go down the whole road just rooting them up. Does that exclude getting a permit to kill? Oh, okay.
All that excludes is the fact that you or your young'un don't have to have a hunting license to shoot them on land that you grow in crops or leased land. And the reason we put the other than timber in it is because I didn't want some lawyer from Atlanta that's got 100 acres of pine trees leased in your neck of the woods saying he's controlling feral hogs and don't want to get a hunting license.
Thank you.
Fine work. Other questions? Okay. We do no questions from committee at this point. We'll move on. We have I think Gina Rogers would like to speak to the bill. Mr. Commissioner, we'll excuse you. Gina, if you'll identify yourself and who you're with, and we'd love to hear from you.
Okay. Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm Gina Rogers with the Georgia Wildlife Federation. Todd Holbrook, the CEO of GWF, had a conflict and couldn't be here, but he wanted all of you to know that we support this bill. Todd has kept up with all the changes and things that have gone on over the last few weeks and days, and we support this. Hogs are an invasive species. They damage habitat and consume foods that should be available to wildlife. They're not wildlife, and they shouldn't be treated as such. The footprint of these hog populations has grown from mostly the South Georgia river bottoms. We've got some hot spots up in the Piedmont, and we like that this bill takes the gloves off and addresses the issue. So we're very supportive.
Thank you. Todd was here yesterday, and he's been an integral part on working with the chairman on this bill and with the commission. We appreciate your association's input, and certainly Todd's knowledge is very helpful in areas like this. Would anybody have a question if she would accept one?
Sure.
To Gina? Or anything about their thoughts? Any other thoughts?
Just make a comment.
What number are you, Emily?
7. I purchased a farm up here in Hall County back this summer. It's on the North Oconee River. And just because of a small family, they reproduce very fast. And watching in my cameras at night, a mother hog with probably 8 or 9 little ones. That was back in September. Now we have several with quite a few more, and they grow pretty rapidly. And I have sod around the front part of the house that they've torn all to pieces. They've continuously come up and rooted up everything, and about broke my ankle this weekend there. But they're a nuisance, but they destroy more than they do good. So I agree with you there, and think we should just have AR-15s to kind of go out and have fun with too.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Appreciate your testimony. Any other questions from the committee or clarifications? Chairman McCall, do you have changes you need to make, or are we good with this?
No, we need to add a couple of things to get DNR happy with the thing. And then, I mean, it doesn't change anything, but we need to put it in code where it will work. On line 85, where we struck centerfire, originally when we read through the bill, we were talking about deer, bear, and feral hogs. Well, now we've struck feral hogs and need to add centerfire back so that the 22 caliber deal. When I first saw 22, I said, well, they all rimfire, but then that really is talking about like a 22-250. So if you add centerfire back, it doesn't matter because we have put back on line 113, you can shoot a hog with anything you got in your hand.
Pretty clear.
And also on, where's my note? Oh, on page 2, to make the statute match up with the hog permit. In the hog permit, if you look on number 3, only Georgia residents can shoot them without a license on your own property or with this permit. And that's not in the statute, so if Jeremy can figure out how to put that back in there, that only a Georgia resident can do work. And then also, if you look at number 1 on the permit, it talks about you can't. The only time you can shoot them at night with the permit is not during deer season. So if it's during deer season, the permit doesn't work. Somewhere in the statute, if Jeremy can figure out how to put that back in there, somewhere along those lines.
And clarify that real quick. So during deer season, you cannot shoot your hogs
At night. You can shoot them in the daytime. You can trap them. You can do anything you want to. It's just during whenever deer season is. I think y'all better shoot them anytime, but I ain't gonna argue that fact. And you can during the daytime. It's just at night with this permit, it doesn't count during deer season. And it used to be during turkey season too, but we took that out. Right?
Is that so all the night hunters can't just say they're hog hunting?
Yep. Yep.
What an astute observation.
I've been known to.
There you go.
You got.
You thought
got to
you-
figure out another excuse, man, what that meant.
You thought you were home free, didn't you? Does everybody understand? Is that perfectly clear? Because you may get questions on that point. Permit, you can continue to hunt hogs during deer season, but not at night on the permit.
And that would be pretty much from bow season on, any part of deer season.
Yes. I think it creates an opportunity for enforcement to uniformly handle the situation and understand what's going on. Other changes or thoughts, Chairman McCall, before we decide
Appreciate
on
you
them?
think you might vote for it, help get rid of these things.
Okay. I would assume that what we need to do is Jeremy needs to work with this language to I think that's what we'll do is everybody understand what we do. We'll basically have a sub to this.
Right, we'll be, for these amendments, we'll just pass it, this stuff out as it's amended,
Okay.
if that's the case.
And y'all, I apologize for bringing this thing on the 29th, 28th day or whatever it is, but I was kind of tied up last week. And,
Yes, and why don't you give us a report on the best McCall, Miss Jane McCall, before we vote on this How is she today?
she's better. She's better. She spent 10 days in the hospital with pretty bad problem, but that's where I was last week and why we didn't do this last week. So
You were where you should have
again,
been.
I apologize for waiting till this kind of time to do it.
No apology necessary. Here's what we need to do then. What we're going to consider is this version as amended. You've heard the amendments. So basically, I'm just going to ask you to consider that, and as we move it along, we'll get it 100% ironed out, so it'll be available to move on along the line to rules. So, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Have a move and a second. All those in favor, let it known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Thank you.
Thank you, and
And
we'll
again, thanks to DNR for
absolutely.
and Jeremy for putting up with all this.
We will. You and Jane will continue to be in many people's prayers, and we certainly know the best. We'll. Okay. We'll move on to Representative Buckner's bill, HB 483. Representative Buckner, if you'll come up and identify the bill to make sure we have the right copy that you're working off of, and then we'll turn it over to you. Well, that's always a problem.
LC 400831. Thank you. This was a combination of interest by a classroom group of students. We did check in with DNR and make sure that they were okay with this, and of course there are a number of organizations that have been studying the shoal bass up and down the Flint, the Chattahoochee, and the Ocmulgee. It's a unique sport fish. People who fish love to catch it because it's a pretty good fighter. It swims as many as 100 miles during its life cycle from one end of the river to the other. It likes the hard rock shoals as well as the limestone shoals to live out its life cycle. So it's a great fish for us to recognize because it lives all up and down the state of Georgia. What is really neat about designating these fish in this way is that it opens it up for opportunity for people to not only know more about it and increase the tourism and the fishing around it, the sports fishing, but it also gives us an opportunity for grants to be able to study it more and learn more about it. So On behalf of some school kids that have worked hard and provided us with some great information about this fish, and also all of the different groups that have studied it from all over the state of Georgia and even Auburn University, I would ask for your favorable consideration to name the shoal bass as the native riverine sports fish of the state of Georgia.
Any questions for Representative Buckner? Representative Tarvin.
This may be for DNR. The shoal bass, are they in Chickamauga Creek? Does anybody know that? Northwest Georgia?
I didn't bring a fisherman's expert with me, but Gordon may have. No.
So if I caught a red-eye bass, they got red-eye bass down here in these other creeks too, haven't they? The only problem I might have with it is being what kind of fish? The
shoal bass.
I know, but what are we calling it? What are we going to name it? The
riverine sports
fish, and not being trying to be critical to everything. But a red-eye bass I could understand, but a bass that a country boy's never seen before in his life, I don't know. All over the state of Georgia, they're in the same family, subspecies, but that's all I would say is I'd never seen a shoal bass, and that. Beg pardon?
I've caught many of them.
Yeah, they're similar, but they're not exactly the same. That's all. It's just.
Appreciate the question. Other questions?
Same species.
Is that Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. The leader is floor leader is has got to have a question, and we certainly want to honor his question. Leader Nimmer.
I'll wave.
No, absolutely.
I'll wave to the chairman.
We can't move on unless we hear your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just to Representative Tarvin's point. We don't have shoal bass over my area. Never caught one. Hadn't never seen one that I'm aware of. I think to Representative Buckner's point, it spurts my interest to want to go try to fish for them, and I think that's part of it, to bring more attention and education and awareness to the shoal bass. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. I appreciate you bringing this forward.
Thank
Chairman McCall, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm fine. But what is a largemouth bass? Ain't he some kind of state symbol?
He's a state fish.
Okay, so
and we still hold the record for having the largest one caught in the state.
We do.
So the riverine, these things live in flowing water. Is that what it is? Right. And a bass can live anywhere? Right. Okay.
Well, we're going to address that too.
And we've had some conversation about that we're open to.
We'll
Other ugly.
Representative LaRicca. Now we finally have a good another good question. The other two were
Representative Buckner. Yeah. One of the things, and I know that the Friends of Georgia Hunting and Fishing Federation, when we make one of these animals or species state fisheries, I'm always concerned that it may cause some problems down the road with not being able to catch it and eat it or something, and so making this one the state native riverine sport fish, is that going to prevent them from being able to catch that fish and clean it and eat it? And
that's not the intent. The intent is really just to bring awareness to it and so that people can be aware of its habitat and hopefully to encourage fishing for it and
I
awareness of it.
I want them to bring more attention to those fish. You said there's some in the Okmulgee River. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if there are, I know down our way a flathead catfish will eat him. So if you'll help us appropriate some more money to getting rid of that flathead catfish, we'll make sure that shoal bass stays in there and that flathead catfish won't eat him.
I'll be glad to talk to the chairman. I know that's going to be worth a whole lot, but I'll do that.
I think one of my concerns is that we don't exclude other important fish by this designation. And with several conversations that I have had, I think that is the case. We are not excluding. We have opportunity that if with this bill, but certainly we're at a late hour with the bill. But in the future, I know red breast, an awfully important fish around the state, as well as those, as Chairman Roberts, flathead catfish, or have some importance to some folks. But fish like the red breast that carries or such an important part of our culture, I would say, certainly cannot be precluded from in the future, if we so desire, to moving forward designation on red breast or something of that, another species or something like that. So, other questions for Representative Buckner before we have some comments?
I just
Chairman
got a comment to sort of along the lines of Representative Richa. That's why I had so much concern over making them aggravating nuisances called a white-tailed deer a state symbol. It's the weather. Eventually, we were going to be able to still kill them at night with a permit.
Chairman McCall, you certainly expressed on the floor. You certainly expressed on the floor your disdain. It would be my best way to characterize your thoughts in that area. And also, as we seek to protect that other part of it, they're pretty important from the hunting standpoint. So we'll balance that deal. Certainly with your thoughts in mind. Representative Buckner, would you like to have anything else at this time?
I just ask for the committee's favorable consideration for this bill.
Thank you. And at this time, we're going to ask you to step back, and we'll let our friend Gordon Rogers, if he has a comment to make. Gordon, we'd love to hear from you. If you'll identify yourself better than I did and who you're with, that'd be great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hesitate to say anything at this point because I know that several folks are going to take some shots. My name's Gordon Rogers. I am the river keeper for Flint River Keeper, and we also took on the mantle of the agenda for the Shoal Bass Association about 2 years ago. They folded their operation and handed off their agenda to us, trusting that we would carry it forward. We represent a little over 3,000 people, a little over 700 farms and businesses and families. The shoal bass is one of, depending on how you count them, and they're still counting them, 9 species of black bass in Georgia. It is one of, depending on how you count them, 4 of the red-eye basses. It's its own species. The one in Chickamauga Creek is a Coosa bass. And then there's a red-eye bass that's in the upper Okmulgee and Oconee, and there's one over in the upper Savannah that they call a Bartram bass. And of the red-eye basses, the shoal bass gets the largest. It bumps 10 pounds. They're 5 to 7 pounds on a regular basis and 2 to 3 pounds very commonly. Extremely popular for the folks that fish for them. And Representative Nimmer, I'd be happy to carry you shoal bass fishing, and I'm sure that our friend Representative Donahue would be able to do it too. The upper Chattahoochee, not too far downstream of Helen, down to about Holcomb Bridge Road, is excellent. We are a fan of the shoal bass, not just because it's a great fish, including being good to eat. I don't have any qualms about killing one. I don't kill very many, but they're excellent table fare. Is not just because it's a great fish, but because it's emblematic of what's good about Georgia and Georgia rivers. It's part of a huge diversity of fish in this state, highest diversity of fish in North America, and that's because we have a huge diversity of water types in this state. And that's something we can be proud of. It's a strong fighter. It doesn't give up right to the very end, and it lives another day when you let it go to be caught again. And we think that that's just an excellent symbol for the state of Georgia. It does nothing to take away from the largemouth bass at 22 pounds 4 ounces. That record still stands since 1932. Okay, I was going to say 4, but that was Mr. George Perry of Helena, Georgia, that caught that thing, and they weighed it, and then they ate it, and because that's just what you did in the 1930s. And it does nothing to take away from that in any shape, form, or fashion. So we're very supportive of this. Clean flowing water is important to all Georgians for a variety of reasons, economic and culturally. And Mr. Chairman and others, I'd be happy to work with you on a redbreast bill at some point. Please don't tell the folks from the Satilla that I forgot about their redbreast. And in closing, I had an offer for a diesel Ford a few days ago that was some cash plus an AR-15, and I'm thinking now I should have taken the offer. Thank y'all for passing that hog bill out of committee. That's very important to our farmers and other folks in the Flint. Appreciate it.
Oh, any questions for Gordon? Thank you for the information. We always appreciate you. Thanks for being here for us.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner?
We're good, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else desire to speak? We'd love to hear from you, Gina.
All right. I'll just state again that I'm Gina Rogers with the Georgia Wildlife Federation. Just want to go on record that the Wildlife Federation supports this bill. I've caught a lot of shoal bass. They're a lot of fun. They are a unique fish, and we've got a world-class fishery here in Georgia. The word's getting out. Folks are starting to come. Articles are being written. It's just a lot of fun to catch them, and they're so special, and they're unique. I believe it was Debbie that said that individuals migrate as much as 100 miles, which is pretty unique with the black bass. And this official designation will be a platform to launch management activities that'll protect the shoal bass, that'll enhance the habitat and the water quality. So it's just a win-win. And like Debbie said, the designation will help to bring money in from all over to do more research and to study them, and it'll just increase the interest and the sport and the tourism. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. To address your concern, Representative LaRicca, I think that probably in the past we've always had, when we've dealt with issues as far as designation of our great diversity, as it was just mentioned, of fish and wildlife, we have very been conscious of not restricting the rights, overburden the rights of folks to enjoy that sport, and the great success we're having with attracting hunting tourism dollars to the state is certainly probably proof of that effort. As we work with with DNR and the DNR board in conjunction to make sure we protect those issues that are important to Georgians in many ways, as far as just their right, but also their right to enjoy what the good Lord's provided for us.
Just a
8.
comment.
3.
Ms. Rogers said enhanced management. Now in Atlanta, that means something different than it does in South Georgia. Enhancing management is what it is here, but what a country boy from South Georgia hears is regulate. And that's just kind of what makes us nervous in regards to some of this, like the white-tailed deer, and Chairman McCall stated that. The way that we manage them in South Georgia is when you catch too many of them out, you can't catch them no more, and everybody will quit fishing for them for a while. Then they'll come back and start biting again, and then you go fish for them again. So that's really it, not to belabor the point, but you just have to keep a close eye on that, because you wake up one day and you're not allowed to even fish for them anymore. And so that was my point. And
understood, and a point well made, and a point well worth making often too. So as we remember folks who help us manage that diversity, we always need to be part of our management decisions. Thank you. Representative Smith.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to just add to the point of clarity that the riverkeeper and the young lady from the Resources Department just alluded to. It's not so much protectionism against the fish or fishing, but it's to ensure that the water is clear and that there are not as many pollutants added to the water. And that's the primary piece that they're talking about when it comes to protecting the species. That's what that point of clarification is.
Thank you. It's all part of the puzzle. What's the wishes of the committee? Anything, Representative Buckner, anything else you need to add?
Move we do pass.
All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Move on. We appreciate everyone being here. We would like to recognize a great outdoorsman and a member of the staff over at EPD, Trip Addison. Glad to have you here this morning. Glad to know you folks over in the Twin Towers get up this early and go to work. And we don't. I'm sure you're glad to be out of the downstairs office with Leader Nimmer there. It's good for you to move across the street.
That's why he's here, sir, just to see me.
No doubt about that. If nothing else comes forth, we stand adjourned. Thank y'all for being here.